Yes, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. Or, of course, if you are watching on our growing YouTube channel, that is Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me from the Smith Center in Chapel Hill, as you can tell by the backdrop, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. AJ, where are you posted up today, man? That's a new spot for you right there.
Well, I've been moving it around because they take chairs away and stuff, and I like to have it elevated a little bit. So I'm right at the visitors tunnel. So I've got this. They have the lights on. Yeah, the lights are on like 50%, and the brightest ones are just right up top, but everything else is dim. So it's got this little shadow action going on. So I wasn't in a car accident. I didn't get mugged and beaten up or anything like that. I just got crap going on all over me here. So
hey, I'm just
the unshaven look going too, but you know.
Yeah, it looks good. I'm just glad the music's not blaring behind you. We'll take it and run with it right now.
Well, so. Because they're not because it's such a late game and they're off tomorrow. So
that's a good point. Yeah,
I assume they're off tomorrow because they have to have one day off a week. So there's no need to break it down right now. So it gets ready for practice. So they'll do that in the morning.
Most definitely. But Carolina getting the win over 24th ranked Michigan tonight, 72-51. AJ, I mean, big performance from the Tar Heels, man. It's the best performance we've seen all season from them, in my opinion. I think most people would agree with that. I didn't think Michigan looked great at times tonight, but credit to Carolina for making Michigan look very average at times. And that kind of alludes to the first thing I want to talk about, which is defense. We have to start there. That's something we've hit on a lot this season, and often in a negative connotation because of how Carolina's played on that side of the ball. But tonight it was completely different. Energy was there, more engaged overall. It just looked like Carolina wanted to play defense. It looked like something had happened in between that last game, that week break between tonight and UNC Asheville. Hubert Davis said defense was going to be a focus during the off week, if you will. And it obviously was, because Carolina looked phenomenal, holding Michigan to 51 points, doing some really nice things. Michigan shot just 35.1% from the floor tonight as well. So defense was big time from the Tar Heels tonight.
Well, they were locked in. They said after the game, Caleb Love said this, Armando said it in a very eloquent way, that when he says, we were pissed like 4 or 5 times about the way they had played, but also they heard the chatter. I mean, if you tuned into ESPN and any of their advances of this game, it was all about how terrible and how terrible Carolina was defensively and how they didn't show a lot of want. Certainly the Mohegan Sun. And we've talked about it. They had to get better defensively. It wasn't exactly rocket science to know that. They knew it too. And it was a point of emphasis. I asked Hubert early in his press conference Tuesday about what, with respect to defense, did they focus on? What were 1 or 2 or 3 things that were absolutely the primary focus? He said defending the paint. Because, for example, to go back to Mohegan Sun, Purdue and Tennessee had 96 points in the paint.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. That is totally unacceptable. Well, Michigan had 20 tonight. And then they go in the last 4 games, including Asheville, they had allowed 19 points off turnovers. And we talked a little bit after the Asheville game. Transition defense isn't just stopping the fast break. It's transitioning, getting set. And if a team gets a miss or if they get a turnover or whatever it is, they have to go set and run their offense. They don't get easy looks. They don't get the second pass and the guy's not in position. So it's not a fast break point, but it's an easy shot to the rim or something like that. So they didn't turn it over a lot tonight, only 6 times. So that helps. When you don't turn it over, you're not going to give up a lot of points off turnovers, but they only gave up 4 points off turnovers, and those were late. Michigan went almost 30 minutes without scoring any points off turnovers after the last 4 teams getting 19. So you cut those 2 things off, and suddenly you're a different defensive team. Yeah. But I think they took it a step further. They did a pretty good job guarding the dribble drive, which has been an issue, and Hubert talked about that Tuesday as well. They did a really good job with the screens. I saw R.J. Davis and Brandon Pete reported this out sitting next to me on press row about how R.J. he would not let himself get screened. And those are energy things. Those are effort things. Those are want things. Those are dialed in things. Those are when it becomes important and it becomes personal to you. And they all said it was personal. Hubert tried to downplay it a little bit because he knows that they need to. Okay, you did it once. Now you got to do it again.
Keep doing it.
That's what great teams do. So the beautiful thing about tonight defensively is that they showed they can actually do it. They were fantastic. Now, Michigan's had some issues coming in offensively. And one of the things I wrote about, Jacob, in the 5 keys was keep Michigan in character. Don't let Michigan play out of character. Well, what are those 2 things I focused on? Number 1, Michigan came into the game having turned the ball over 23 times more than their opponents. Well, it was 13-7 tonight. And a lot of those turnovers were early. And I thought that established the defensive mindset and mojo that Heels play with. I think 5 turnovers by the first TV timeout. So they told Michigan, it ain't going to be easy for you tonight. And Michigan never fully adjusted. Number two is the fact that Michigan came in shooting 29% from 3. And if you take away Eli Brooks, the rest of the team was 24.4%. Michigan was right above 30% tonight. And I think you'll live with that. Hubert, if he knows that the opponents are going to be at 30.6% the rest of the year, he's going to stuff that in his back pocket, shut the door, and run laughing. And that's what they did tonight. Michigan got some open looks. They didn't knock them down, but they got open looks after stressed possessions. It wasn't come down the court, 2 passes, wide open 3, and there's demoralization on the defense. A lot of those threes were after 4 passes, 5 passes, 6 passes, after a lot of movement, guys popping out. They had to work for a lot of that stuff. So the Tar Heels didn't let Michigan play out of character offensively in this game, and they did everything that they intended to do defensively. Everything Hubert said Tuesday but that they worked on defensively, they applied tonight. And guess what? They picked up a 21-point win, a much-needed win for this program, and they did it doing things well that they hadn't really done well coming into this game.
Yeah, most definitely big win for Carolina. Just going to run through some stats real quick. Points off turnovers, Carolina 13-4 advantage, Points in paint, 34-20 advantage for the Tar Heels. Total rebounds, 38-35. So just a slight win for the Tar Heels in that. And second chance points, like you mentioned, 14-5 for the Tar Heels tonight. So really in those major categories, you're looking for Carolina leading the way in all of those, which was something we haven't seen, especially against the bigger teams this year. AJ, let's talk about the second half in particular. Carolina going on a 43-18 run early in the second half to kind of start it out. I think about 9 minutes in, Michigan was only 3 of 14 from the floor shooting, really struggled. Carolina looked good defensively, like we alluded to, but really dominated the glass during that stretch as well. Total rebounds only ended up 38-35, but during that stretch in particular, Carolina did some really nice things. Dawson Garcia had some big time baskets. Armando Bacot leading the way a little bit as well. So that second half stretch starting out 43-18, was big time for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, it was 29-29, 18 seconds into the second half. And then Carolina picked up those 2 quick fouls on Hunter Dickinson. He picked up his 4th. It was a 33-29 game. And boom, Tar Heels took off. They went right inside to Armando. And I thought Armando battled his rear end off tonight. Before Dickinson got into foul trouble, they did a really good job of neutralizing him in the first half. I asked Hubert after the game, what did you guys do? And he said that they were doubling the post. They hadn't doubled the post yet this year, and they certainly didn't do it in the Mohegan Sun, leading to 96 points in the paint. They doubled the post tonight. They made life very difficult for Dickinson, but it wasn't just stuff in the paint. Brandon and I were talking earlier about, Dickinson likes to set those high screens. He can come off them. He can shoot from up there. He can pass from up there. And after the first few possessions, he had a lot of screens and he had a lot of touches off those screens. They started limiting that as well. He just never got in the flow of the game. He kind of had a similar game here that Armando had against Purdue at the Mohegan Sun, but the difference is I think Carolina had a lot more to do with it. Armando just fouled up at the Mohegan Sun, got himself in foul trouble, never really got into the game. Carolina took Dickinson out of the game. So for a club that people say, well, I'm not too sure about that. Everybody wanted the spread, right? Everybody wanted 4 out. And all of a sudden, 6 games in, people are like, oh, maybe we want more big guys playing like big guys. Well, it's not just big guys that defend the interior. It's not just big guys that stop Dickinson. They cut off the entry lanes. There were a few drive lanes, but they didn't let Michigan run anything, and they didn't run a whole lot of stuff through him. So I thought that when they took off, he went out of the game, and then they dominated inside. Armando was scoring. He was blocking shots. They went from down 19-13 on the glass to winning the battle 38-35. So much of it was during that period, and so much of it was Armando, who finished with 14 rebounds. So they just kind of flexed their muscles. They did the Popeye thing, and they just took off during that stretch. 43-18 in a stretch of 17-57. Total dominance by this team. They did it in every facet. But again, It was the principle. It was the things that Hubert said. He said tonight that he told them at halftime before Dickinson got into serious foul trouble, we can score inside. They increased their points in the paint in the second half. A higher percentage of their buckets were in the paint. and Caleb then went off. At the end of that run, Caleb went off kind of like he did against Charleston, but more so. This was a young man who finally got to experience a full Dean Dome, an energetic Dean Dome, and a Dean Dome that I thought was a six-man tonight. I thought it lifted them on defense, especially during that 43-18 stretch. And I thought Caleb Love just kind of went up another notch and said, you know what? I dig playing in front of all these people. I love the energy that they made him 20 feet tall, and they made him the fastest guy in the gym. They made him the guy gliding the most beautifully in the gym. So much of what he did during that run, from a defensive standpoint, from an offensive standpoint, shooting off the dribble, driving to the lane, feeding teammates, was a work of art. But they all chipped in, and I think you mentioned Dawson Garcia during that stretch. That was a big 7 points that he gave them during that run, because that was the offensive flint that really got them going. That was the best they've played since 2019.
Yeah, I would agree
this
with that.
game, that run, that was when Cam Johnson and Luke May and Kenny Williams and Kobe White and those guys, when they got it going against some good teams and had some of those real impressive stretches. Tonight was as well as they played since then. It's been a while since North Carolina's looked like that. And they look like a big-time team, especially during that stretch.
Yeah, most definitely. Just to run through some stats as well. I know you mentioned Caleb Love, 22 points, leading the way for the Tar Heels tonight, 9 for 16 shooting. 4 assists, 4 rebounds as well. Dawson Garcia with 14 points. Mondo Baycott with another double-double, 11 and 14 for him. So really those get the three guys kind of leading the way. Brady Manick and RJ Davis pitched in with 9 as well. So really good offensive night for the Tar Heels. And total put up a ton of points. We've seen Carolina put up at times, but 72 points, 21-point win. You'll take it and run with it. AJ, let's talk about what this means now. Georgia Tech coming up on Sunday, ACC play starting on Sunday, but I think it's a lot you can build off from this game, because we've talked about it a lot in this video, but Carolina played with energy. They look more enthusiastic on the defensive side of the ball. They look more engaged. They look like they were playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder on that side of the ball at times. I think the question mark now is, can Carolina turn that into consecutive games and do it on both ends of the floor consecutively going down to Atlanta? It's going to be a tough game. The Yellow Jackets, I think, losing tonight to Wisconsin, so be sitting at 5-2 as they head down there. But it's going to be a tough test down there as well, but a lot of positives to take away from tonight, because like you said, I think it's one of the best performances we've seen in a couple of years from the Tar Heels. Some people had questioned how together this team was. They say, they don't look together on the court. Of course, that's just the court. That doesn't show you insight into anything else. One way to bring a group of guys together is to diss them. Is to say, you guys aren't very good. We don't like your coach's press conference. We don't like their effort we don't like your facial expressions. We don't like your body language. And they heard all that stuff. And they came together and they galvanized and said, guys, let's go kick some derriere. And they did kick derriere. Now what they need to do is that needs to become DNA. That you can't just use all that to get you up for a big night to show that you're somebody. You got to be somebody every time you take the floor. That's how really good teams have a chance at becoming great teams, or that's how good teams become really good teams. I think this is a good team that has a chance to be really good. And to become really good, they have to show up in Atlanta Sunday afternoon with a similar type of energy, a similar type of spirit. They have to have a little bit of, hey, let's continue to show people, but let's show us. Let's do this for us. Yeah. So we'll see what they do in Atlanta. I think the biggest challenge Hubert has is getting them up here for that game, because human nature says we get satisfied. Human nature says we don't do that every day we wake up. It's not the same effort and spirit in that day as all previous days. So that is the challenge. But one of the beautiful selling points that Hubert has now says, hey, guys, wasn't that fun? Yeah. B, look at what you can be when you do it on all points in the court. Okay. It's not just offense, defense, but it's all the different things. It's how they played together, the way they played off each other, the communication on the court, and all that kind of stuff. And some of the adjustments that Hubert has made, and certainly made defensively, by doubling the post. So trust in him goes up. Trust in each other goes up. Seeing is believing. Hey guys, look at what you just did. See, this works.
We know what we're doing. You guys are capable of doing what we're telling you can do. So let's march forward and do it again. So that's the task. And I think that's sort of the challenge here. And there's no reason to expect that they won't respond accordingly and go down to Atlanta and play well. But we don't know because we haven't seen this team play well in consecutive games and play with that kind of mojo. So we'll see if they take it down there. But look, you can't do it a second game until you do it in the first game.
Yeah.
Got to do it once. I love what they did tonight. I mean, they look like North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And they look like North Carolina with an attitude. And given the amount of talent this team has, and that they could score from a lot of different points, and they showed tonight, at least on this night, they could defend. You know, they have to like what this feels like. So it's up to them to try to feel like this again, and then again, and then again. So I think that's what this means. They don't feel like they did flying home from Connecticut. They must have felt like crap then. And guys maybe second guessing themselves and second guessing other things. Because again, that's human nature, man. Human nature is all over this stuff. We talk about it all the time, Jacob. I write about it all the time. It really is. So now it's a different vibe. And let's see if they can ride that down in Atlanta. Then if they do it there, then we're going to have a conversation afterward in our three things about, okay, make something like this a habit. If it happens 2 times in a row, you're one step closer to being habit and being who you are. So we'll see what they do.
Exactly. We'll see what happens. Carolina getting the big time win over Michigan tonight in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, 72-51. Like we talked about, Georgia Tech coming up down in Atlanta, 3 p.m. tip-off on Sunday. Obviously, AJ will be down there for that as well. So for all your coverage from tonight's game, leading up to that, during the Georgia Tech game, keep it locked at TarHeelIllustrated.com and, of course, our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. As always, guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know every single time we upload, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.
Thank you.